Hey guys, I'm back working on my 2014 Cascadia, Freightliner Cascadia with the DD15, but actually working on I have a Thermo King TriPac on here, and that's what I was working on today. It's an older style TriPac. It doesn't have the DPF or diesel exhaust fluid or anything like that. It doesn't have those knobs inside where the newer ones turn. It's not an Evolution, it's just the standard old TriPac. It was probably put on this truck when it got built in 2013. So it's the push button in there. What I was having an issue was working perfectly fine, no issues whatsoever. And then one day, you'd hear the engine fan come on it, and the fuel pump would start clicking away, to get ready. The little buzzer would go off, but the little buzzer doesn't work on this, but it would have went off if that was hooked up. And then the starter would just do a half a turn, and then that's it. And then it would try again a minute later, and it'd try again a minute later, and it'd just do that until you turned it off. So I was thinking, man, I probably got a bad ground, or not getting good power to it, something with the wire, or maybe the starter. When I first got this truck, it's August now. I got this truck in December, and I think it'd been sitting a while, and the starter was it would spin, but it wouldn't move forward to engage the flywheel. And after a couple taps of the hammer last December, that fixed that, and I haven't really had an issue with that since then. And first thing I did was took all the battery cables off the batteries, cleaned them, put them back on. And then I went and did the same thing to the actual TriPac unit. Took all the wires off, the alternator, the ground block, cleaned up the ground. The ground strap comes up here where the back of the starter bolts to. The ground strap goes onto the engine and the starter there. The only ones I didn't do, but they seemed like they were getting good power when I put my voltmeter back there, was the wires that go onto the starter, but they just look impossible to get to unless you take that back panel off maybe, or take the alternator off. So I wasn't really planning on doing that, but it said it was getting 12 something volts, just like it was at the alternator and just like it was at the battery, so I just assumed those were good. Still nothing. Do the same thing, turn it on, crank half a turn, that was it. So I thought, well, let's make sure that the starter's not going bad. Maybe the solenoid's hanging up again. So I found the solenoid wire, and I broke it open, split it open, and ran a hot wire, and touched it on the alternator to engage the starter. Worked fine. Tried to do that when it was cranking up, when the fuel pump and the fan would come on, and nothing. Starter would just sit there and turn, nothing. So I was thinking, all right, maybe I got a bad ground somewhere. So ran a ground strap from the engine to the frame, same thing. And I ran jumper cables from the alternator and the ground block. There's a big ground block in the back right corner near the exhaust back there that has a bunch of ground wires on it. Ran the jumper cables from that over to my Mustang. Tried to crank it up, same thing. So I was trying to eliminate maybe the batteries were going bad from the battery bunks to the actual TriPac unit. Still nothing. And I was thinking, well, I have had one of these years ago where the computer board went bad and the relay went bad, but I can still hear the relays clicking and buzzing a little bit the moment that it was trying to crank up. And when I had one of the boards go bad, the relay would just click. And I happened to be working for somebody at the time that had a parts truck, and we just swapped the boards out, and that took care of it. Unfortunately, Thermo King, you can't change these relays. These things are soldered onto the board, and there's really the only way to change those relays. I guess you could send the board out somewhere, but it's probably just cheaper to spend $300 on the board or whatever it cost. So I said, hey, still doing the same thing. I was thinking, well, maybe it's a board. I was getting ready to call Thermo King to find out how much a board was, but then I looked and I said, oh, there's one more ground that I haven't checked right here. This is a ground. So I took my jumper cables, hooked the ground up here, ran to the battery box, turned the unit on, fired right up. So after all that, it was a ground, and it was this one. And the reason the ground was probably not working correctly, and I'm sure this is not the only ground, but this one's needed maybe that ground going over here might be what energizes some of the other relays or something like that. It was put in by whoever installed this. I don't know if it was Freightliner or whoever, but it was put in just with a self-tapping screw on a ridiculously thin floor of the cab. and that was the issue. Crazy. I was getting ready to send it to Thermo King to do this, and you know, I've probably got, you know, by the time taking the box off and going around and checking everything and disconnecting everything, I've probably got 6 or 7 hours in it already, you know. And if you take that down to Thermo King, you know, $100 an hour, 120 an hour, whatever they're charging, it starts adding up pretty quick. They might not even found this. They might have changed the board out before they even looked at this. And maybe changing that board out might have fixed it, because they probably would have jiggled this wire around enough when they changed the board out, you know. And then they would have said it was the board, and it might have just been that wire. So it's always good to go around, check all your grounds, check all your battery, check all your fuses with a test light. Get the voltmeter out, make sure you got the same amount of power within a you know, couple tenths of a volt from the battery to each place. You're going to lose a little bit the longer the lines go. So maybe this will help somebody out. Good luck, guys.